The 15-inch MacBook Pro came as a surprise to many people, myself included. After all, the whole point of an Air is that it is smaller, lighter and thinner, and for a lot of people for a long time, 13 inches would seem to be the ideal size for a MacBook Air. The laptop you can throw into a backpack and almost forget you have it with you. Don't do that, by the way. Make sure you have all of your tech on you at all times. But then someone at Apple got to thinking, what if we could have the 15-inch size but with all the lightness of an Air? And would anybody actually want to buy that? Well, Apple seemed to think so, even in these tough times when laptop sales seem to have gone through the floor. And here it is, the thin, light and moderately powerful M2 MacBook Air. And if this thing looks familiar, well, that's because it is. In terms of form factor, you might be forgiven for thinking this is exactly the same as the 13-inch MacBook Air, only on steroids. And if you only wanted to buy this thing because it looks so darn good, I wouldn't blame you. I've even gotten used to the infamous notch now after 18 months with the 14-inch MacBook Pro. Now from the side, it's hard to believe that you're actually looking at a 15-inch laptop, with a thinness, as Apple say, of 1.15 centimeters. However, those 2 inches of extra display size can make a huge difference, with lots of lovely room for absolutely everything you're working on, from email to spreadsheets to Final Cut Pro. What we have here is the base model with an 8-core CPU, 10-core GPU, 8GB of unified memory and a 256GB SSD storage. Now to be exact, this is a 15.3-inch Retina display with True Tone. It also has a 1080p webcam. Now, I'm not too obsessed with the specs of webcams, but it is nice to see Apple finally joining the rest of the world by having HD cameras on all of their models going forward. Now, the Retina display is going to be absolutely fine for most people. Brightness, contrast and sharpness are all really good, especially in daylight conditions. And it's only in a dark room that movie fans are going to notice that the blacks aren't really all that black compared to the Pro machines. But if you've never owned a mini LED display that comes with the Pros, you probably will never miss what you've never had. But despite all of the specs and features, it is the actual size of this machine which is grabbing all the headlines, and with good reason. 15 inches is the most popular size of laptop in the world. And that's because for most people, whether they're working on spreadsheets, writing emails, or opening up a video editor, 15 inches hits the Goldilocks zone in terms of screen real estate. Simply put, you can fit more of what you're doing on the screen at any one time. Finally, people have what they've been asking for a long time, and that is a jack-of-all-trades, do-everything laptop that has all of the size and none of the weight. And that's one of the reasons that I chose the 14-inch MacBook Pro over the 16, because of course with that bigger screen comes that spine-warping weight whenever you're on the go. But sadly in this case, a bigger machine doesn't mean any more ports or any more expansion. There's exactly the same limited selection as on the 13-inch, with a MagSafe 3 charging port, 2 Thunderbolt ports, and like on the Pro machines, a high impedance headphone jack. And there is still only support for one external display via Thunderbolt. On the upside though, a larger Apple trackpad is nothing to be sniffed at, and you can drag and drop to your heart's content on one of the best trackpads in the world. There's a 6-speaker system that supports spatial audio and head tracking for all makes of AirPods, and I have to say that my AirPods Pro 2 sound great on this machine. But similar to lots of Apple devices, I've noticed that the speakers on the 15-inch sound a lot better when you're listening to movies as opposed to music, and I think that might have something to do with Dolby Atmos support. As a voiceover artist who records my own voice every single day on various microphones and different devices, I know that when Apple say their microphones are studio quality, you have to take that with a pinch of salt, because it all depends on what environment you're actually in. Are you in a quiet room or a studio? And the microphones on the 15-inch, I have to say, sound about as good as those on an iPhone, which is pretty good anyway if you're in a quiet room. The Magic Keypad is of course fantastic and one of my favourite keypads of all time. And because of the sheer size of the 15-inch, no longer will the edges cut into your palms while you're typing. The economies of the M2 chip mean that battery life is superb, with up to 18 hours of movie watching and 15 hours of wireless web browsing. The base model comes with a 35-watt charger, but a 70-watt charger is also available. And just remember, you get all of this tech and screen real estate in a fanless silent design, and if you've never had a fanless silent computer before, believe me, you will appreciate it. The last generation of Intel Macs, with their confidence-breaking overheating and jet engine fan noise when doing the simplest tasks, now seem like a thing of the distant past, let alone 2 years ago. But just remember that because of that fanless design, you're always going to be limited in terms of power and how much you can spec this machine up. Now, Pro machines are called Pro for a reason, and that's because they're more powerful, but with that greater power comes the need for a fan. But still, it means that creatively speaking, you get much faster render and export times. So who is the base model 15-inch MacBook Air actually for? If you're using this machine for tasks such as email, writing essays, doing spreadsheets, internet browsing, or just watching YouTube videos, then the lightweight design of this 15-inch laptop at just 1.51 kilograms or 3.3 pounds, combined with the unbelievable 18-hour battery life, is going to be a dream combination for anyone who likes to work on the go. And definitely best in class when it comes to 15-inch laptops. And the base model of this machine might be more than enough for you for the next 5 years. However, if you are a full-time creator doing photography, graphics, or video work like me, then I'd definitely say it's not for you. That's simply because it's hampered by the lack of storage, the lack of ports, and the power that most creators need. And when it comes to video editing in particular, you will definitely notice a slowdown in comparison to the Pro machines. And working on this video with just a few streams of 4K footage, I definitely did get the odd spinning beach ball. In fact, compared to the first M1 machines, Apple have definitely learnt their lesson and figured out that they were just too good, and they now slow down all of their base model machines in comparison. Now, if the lightness of the 15-inch MacBook Air is what is really important to you, then you can spec it up to the max if you're going to be doing creative work, but by that time, I'd say you might as well spend your money on a 14-inch MacBook Pro. In fact, in relative terms, it's going to be a lot cheaper for a lot more power. But if you still want a measure of high performance in the lightest possible package and save yourself an awful lot of money, I would say buy the base model M1 MacBook Air, which is actually more capable for video editing. But I think as YouTubers, sometimes we're guilty of seeing every single machine from our own little creative bubble point of view. And that can blind us to the fact that for most people, the 15-inch MacBook Air is an absolutely fantastic machine. This is an impossibly thin 15-inch laptop with a beautiful fan-free design that caters to the vast majority of consumers, and with more than enough battery life to get them through 2 working days without recharging. And don't forget, for the last couple of years, Apple's prices have been coming down considerably if you compare it to the power you're getting from these machines. But as usual, I'd like to know what you think. Is this the best 15-inch laptop in the world right now for all of our everyday needs? Or is there even a PC that you'd recommend to change the minds of Apple fanboys like me? Just let me know in the comments down below. And do also check out my review of the 14-inch MacBook Pro. And if you've enjoyed this video, then please do subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.